Welcome back to Talk 1260 KTRC, the Humanity Behind the Vanity. It's Dr. Daniel Ronel. I'm a plastic surgeon here with my wife Betsy. And
we're still here.
We are in the middle of a great discussion with Melinda Williams, the Executive Director of Community Against Violence in Taos.
This deserves 2 shows.
Yes, so go ahead.
Okay, so here's something we were talking about on the break, was Tyler Perry, that playwright, movie developer, movie producer and director extraordinaire, came out this week all over the media, started off with Oprah, then went to The View, and I'm sure other outlets too, about the horrible childhood he had, suffering major sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And for a long time, sort of checked out while the sexual abuse was happening and the physical abuse. And that's how he says he engaged his imagination and became the person he is today.
Right.
Yeah.
But he said for a long time, one of the things he said was for a long time, it was just part of his life. It only came to him as an adult, I think, or an older teen, that this just ain't right.
Right.
And so he came out about it. But can I just say one quick thing?
Sure.
One profound comment he made so quickly was, he said, and I quote this, I think, "The abuse is not you." And I thought
That's
that was
true.
key. The abuse is not you.
That's very important
Yeah.
for survivors to remember, is that the abuse is not them. And for children, often they think they cause. There's so much,
Right.
children are
Of
center of
course.
the universe. They're taught that, that's how we raise children, and it's appropriate. But
Yeah.
they're so responsible that they feel they're responsible. I don't mean they are responsible.
No,
They
right.
they believe they're responsible for it, and so there's all this shame that surrounds it. And there's that piece that it feels like it's happening to them, it's normal, and they're told so much that that's their
Right.
fault.
Right.
There's a tremendous amount of pressure on children to keep families together and to keep the peace.
Right.
And when there's disconnects, even parents going through divorces, is that children feel that responsibility.
Yeah.
Even when you explicitly say it's not your fault, they think they're in trouble because there's so much tension around it.
When we fight,
When we have an argument, I was just thinking about that,
our
right?
kids are like, please don't get divorced, please don't get, because sometimes I'm like, get out, I've had it. In front of my kids, I know that's wrong, but every now and then, they're always there.
Yeah.
But they think it's
They feel
them.
responsible, and we,
What can we
you
do?
know,
What can
we
we
have
do?
to touch base
Yeah.
with them and,
Right.
tell
Then we
them.
stop fighting.
Right.
Right then,
Right.
and there's like, this is so stupid.
Right.
Okay, and then
Well,
we
and
go
it's
back
good,
to being
it's,
normal.
if you're going to have arguments with, arguments and conflict isn't the problem, it's
Yeah.
how you solve it, whether or
Right.
not you're doing healthy resolution.
Right.
So you can teach your children that as well.
And that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And with,
exactly.
in
Yeah, she's
the
very good at
situation you were just talking about,
Yes.
it is really important, what you said, he said, is that you are not the abuse.
Yeah, the abuse,
Is that
yeah.
you can heal from sexual abuse, you can heal
Yes.
from emotional abuse,
Yes.
verbal abuse, physical violence.
Yes.
The hardest part is healing inside, it's not the
Yes.
outside that shows.
Right.
And I think, for Tyler Perry to come forward and say that, it's really brave of him.
Yeah.
But breaking the silence gives other survivors the courage to say,
Exactly.
like, wow, this happened to somebody else, this happened to me. Maybe I
not
can
so
be
bad,
okay
right?
too,
Yeah.
and maybe it wasn't my fault.
Right.
Maybe it was the abuser's fault, which absolutely
Hello.
it is.
Yes.
And for the most
Yes.
part, that's a cyclical thing.
Yeah.
When children are abused, they often grow up to have issues, and it's not that they're going
course.
to become perpetrators, but we need to have enough programs to help child abuse survivors.
Right.
And if they're coming forward as adults, almost all the rape crisis centers I can even think of, we have some amazing rape crisis centers here in New
Yeah,
Mexico.
we do.
They all have hotlines, they all give free information, free services, and you don't even have to tell them your name.
Exactly.
That's
I've
right.
told people about this that I know were in emotional, not physical as far as I knew, emotional
Sure.
abuse situations. And I said, just call Esperanza, or, because they're here
Sure.
in San call one of these centers. Don't even tell them who you are. Just
That's
ask
right.
for
That's
help.
right.
They're so afraid. It's amazing.
I think the more people speak up, the more we'll break down the barriers of people feeling the shame,
It's not
because
their
they
fault.
didn't do it to themselves.
Right.
And that's always the
They
issue
didn't
that
ask for
happens.
it. They
Right.
didn't know. None of that.
Right. And we want everyone to know is that if you're in a relationship, and we're talking not necessarily child abuse now,
Yeah,
but
no.
if you're in a relationship where somebody's making you feel like you're less than who you are, making you feel bad, then it's time to get out of that relationship, or it's time to at least get a reality check.
Right.
Talk to someone else. Talk to a counselor if you have one,
Right.
but your friends that are not invested in the relationship, whether you're with the person or not,
Right.
and get a reality check.
Yeah.
Often people will find out is that there's not something wrong with them, there's something wrong with the relationship.
Right.
Because it's making them feel bad.
That's right.
You cannot have a healthy life if you're feeling bad in your primary relationship.
No. And here's something else. Tyler Perry also said, people had asked me, how did you pull through that? Because I mean, all of that combined at the same
Right.
time, it was layers and layers of abuse for years, that could just ruin you.
Sure.
It could make you commit suicide. But he always said, and I don't know if he ever contemplated suicide, I don't know if he said that, but he said, I just knew I had a higher purpose. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I was just going to make it through this and deal with it later. So
I think that, you hear from a lot of child abuse survivors is that they just try and look outside themselves,
Right.
and there is a disconnect. Often you'll hear that with survivors talk about, I just went somewhere else.
yes.
Like you disconnect from it, because to be in your body when somebody is abusing you
Right,
is
violating
really
you.
is really more pain than people can usually deal with.
Yeah.
So that separation and kind of a disconnect, and you set your eyes on who you want to be
Yeah.
and separate from that. But I mean, how brave of this man to come forward and say it now, and that's the kind of thing we need people to do. Let's
Right.
keep talking about it.
That's
And
right.
if it's happened to you, it's happened, you can walk, like I was explaining, walk into a store and see people that you think, once your eyes are opened, you kind of think. But talk to your friends. It is amazing. If you've got the high number of people who go through emotional abuse and domestic, violence, whether it's with physical violence, emotional, verbal, or sexual,
Yes.
psychosocial, economic abuse,
Yes.
all of that stuff is so intrinsically
Yeah.
bound into our society
Yes.
that it's not going to stop if we don't
No.
talk about it.
No.
And we need to give people that reality check if they're asking for it. If they're not, just talk about your own stories.
Right.
Obviously you don't
stories.
break it out at the dinner table if you're with a bunch of strangers. You want to have some safety around it.
Right.
But it's okay.
But
to
once you get
say-
comfortable with your story, then you can talk about it. I
Yes.
have emotional abuse, serious stories all the time, and I'm totally comfortable talking about them to help other people, because people see me as confident and attractive, and oh, she's had
Sure.
the best life. Oh no, I have not. I've always been taken care of, but I've had some serious emotional abuse done to me. Daniel pays the price for it frequently, but I mean, I've been really screwed up in my teenage years and then into a young adulthood. If we had more time, I'd go into detail.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it comes in all forms of life, all
That's right.
walks of life. Just because you look good, people think you have money, or you
Right.
got it all put together. Oh no,
Mhm.
it hides under any kind of cover.
That's right. You can be highly educated. You can
Yeah.
have a very good income, great job, be very
Mhm.
successful,
Mhm.
and feel terrible
Yeah.
in a relationship that's not healthy.
Yeah.
That somebody is taking you down to a place that makes you feel less than who you are.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to say this about abusers and perpetrators. They're all bullies, and they're all
Mhm.
tiny little babies within that shell of a physically large person.
Yeah.
They are a tiny little baby that should be punched in the face back. But
Okay,
that's,
I'm not gonna have to.
I know, no, I know you're not, I know you're not. But it happened to them, and it's made them feel teensy weensy.
Almost always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
They're
that's what
trying-
you're dealing with.
They're trying to take power
Sorry.
over somebody
Sorry.
else.
Okay.
No, I get that
Yeah.
feeling. I know
Yeah.
what that
It
feels
makes
like.
you angry.
Yes, so that
That's who's in there. That's who's in your bullies. Anyone who's violating you in any way, shape, or form, a teacher, a coworker, a spouse, a partner, a friend, anybody, babysitter, Santa Claus,
Yeah.
that's what's in that body.
Yeah.
A baby, a teensy weensy,
Yeah.
Who's trying to get
Weasel.
control over
Exactly.
someone else.
And if
to
you
have
need
power.
help, we have to wrap it up. If
Exactly.
you need
I'm
help,
sorry.
what number can you call?
575-758-9888.
Okay, thank you so much for listening
Yeah, thanks.
to
This was a good one.
Thank you.
Talk 1260 KTRC. We'll be back next week.